Once upon a time, a small group of artists changed the world with a movie about talking toys. Since then, Pixar has been responsible for some of the greatest films of all time, from Monsters, Inc. to Wall-E. And just when audiences couldn't believe Pixar could do any better, Pixar emotionally wrecked the world with Inside Out, a movie that still remains a fan favorite. But believe it or not, there are critics who panned the film. Those critics reviewed Inside Out. Now, it's time for us to roast the critics.
It's official that Inside Out 2 is the highest-grossing animated film of all time. Inflation helped, of course, but it's also a solid movie. For Pixar to finally put out a winner after so many horrible years, they deserve this boost to nudge them in the right direction. But let's go back to 2015 when Pixar first introduced the concept of anthropomorphic emotions. Most people would agree that the first Inside Out is a film of the highest caliber. It's both heartbreaking and altogether funny at every turn. Child psychologists worldwide have used this movie as a tool to help their young patients understand how their emotions work. One of the benefits of this masterpiece is that it is a film that celebrates nuance, a word Hollywood probably can't even pronounce.
We say it as nuance.
To them, everything is black and white and no in between, but that's a different topic for a different time. Rotten Tomatoes shows us that 98% of critics appreciated the film's value, while only 89% of audiences loved the film, which means that 11% of the people who've seen this groundbreaking film are abject psychopaths who are in desperate need of a shrink.
Well, you need to get a new shrink. Get several.
But we're not talking about the audiences today, unfortunately. But since the critics have reviewed Inside Out, it's now time for us to roast the critics who didn't approve of it. You won't want to miss this. Vincent Mancini from Film Drunk says, "It feels simultaneously infantilized and aimed over kids' heads." First of all, no one said this is a kids' movie, so Vincent needs not to speak for the little ones.
Are you stupid or something?
The whole point of the film is to make these complex ideas obtainable to anyone who's ever felt these emotions. I think what Vincent is clearly saying is that he's not, in fact, smarter than a fifth grader.
Budapest is the capital of what European country?
I thought Europe was a country.
Ben Sachs from Chicago Reader says, "Inside Out feels like a clever educational short stretched to feature length. God forbid we ever learn anything from a full-length movie. While movies can serve to allow us to be entertained while our brains are switched off, we all know that we can learn a lot about the world and different cultures and personality types. But Ben isn't interested in learning any of that. He prefers his movies short and stupid. Maybe in this case you are what you watch." If I haven't convinced you yet that Ben Sachs is either a shill or completely out of his mind, take a look at just a few other films he scored on Rotten Tomatoes. He hated Avengers: Infinity War, hated Bumblebee, hated Toy Story 4.
You are a sad, strange little man.
Just wait until RTC gets to that franchise. He hated Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Midsummer, but don't worry, he's not all hatred. Ben Sachs absolutely loved 2015's Fantastic Four. He loved The Meg. Clearly this out-of-touch idiot is not a voice for the people. He's not objective or even honest enough to be a film critic and Chicago Reader, and Chicago Reader never should have employed him for as long as they did. Julian Roman from MovieWeb says, "Pixar and Disney, please go back to making films that are more fun than not. I don't want to be bummed out watching a kid's film. It's thanks to critics like this that we keep getting movies like these. How in God's name do you not have fun exploring the emotions of a developing human being?" The whole film taps into a universal truth that every one of us can relate to. Who else can make psychology fun? These guys? One of them needs to go back to hosting the Oscars, and the other one needs to figure out if he wants to keep acting or become a campaign manager for the DNC.
I tell everybody that comes in this taxi that they have to vote for you. Everybody I know is going to vote for you.
As for Inside Out being sad, Julian needs to lock herself in a closet and never watch any animated movie from 4 to ever. Steve Biodrowski from Cinefantastique says, "Looks good only in comparison to its disappointing predecessors. Buckle in, folks. Yeah, this is where I go hard." So, this guy knows that Inside Out wasn't made by Blue Sky Studios, right? Disney made it very obvious that this is a Pixar film, the most elite film studio ever. And up to 2015, Pixar was batting .920. It would be 1,000, but we can't overlook Cars 2 that came out a few years before. Essentially, this guy is saying that Toy Story 1 through 3 are disappointments, that Monsters, Inc. is a disappointment, Finding Nemo, Wall-E, Ratatouille, and Up, all disappointments. And did I mention Toy Story 3? If anything, Pixar's Inside Out elevated Pixar's position to even higher prestige than anyone ever thought possible. And remember, Inside Out was still under the old crew's creative control. Pete Docter turned an impossible concept into one of the most beloved films of all time. Pixar was the Gustos to Hollywood's Ricky Bobby fast food combo.
Shake and bake.
Let's go back to Steve Biodrowski's review. I'm not about to let this flaming ball of stupid off that easy. He says, looks good only in comparison to its disappointing predecessors. What in the lightning crack in Zeus's avocado ass is this guy even talking about? Let's head over to the control panel and skip down memory lane, shall we? You can find Steve online and harass him, but you didn't hear it from me. Oh look, he liked Meg 2 The Trench. You know why? Because it's heartless and stupid. He hated Disney's Haunted Mansion. You know why? Because it blew expectations and it was heartfelt. He liked that drain-clogging pubic hair cluster that is Jurassic World Dominion. You know why? Because Steve loves being dominated, even though there was no actual dominating in the movie itself. Don't even get him started on Toy Story 3. Oh man, we're gonna rip him a new... Wait, what's this? He actually liked Toy Story 3, which came out prior to Inside Out. Steve says, by the high standards of Pixar, the new Toy Story falls slightly short, but it's still better than anything else in the computer-animated sweepstakes.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Which is it, Steve? Is Pixar disappointing, or are their standards superior? Let's move on. We don't want to keep these other critics waiting, do we? Jenny Olsen from Cinemixtape says that Inside Out is liable to create more than a few existential crises in viewers totally unprepared to handle them. Hey kids, that's shorthand for, you're all cretinous.
What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid.
Be sure to write Cinemixtape if that causes you any mental scarring. And sign it, Steve Biodrowski. Oh, look here, Steve loved The Prince of Persia.
Ugh.
And oh ho, he absolutely adored Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. Maybe Steve will meet Jason there. Come to think of it, if God judged us by our taste in films, Steve would end up on the same fiery butt plug as Hitler. Better hope he's unbreakable, because he hated that movie as well. Michael Faust from The Public in Buffalo says, some viewers will probably be impressed that Inside Out contains a sequence that dramatizes the 4 stages of abstraction, but that doesn't make it a better movie. Yes, because when normal people think fondly of Inside Out, we immediately recall the only scene in the movie where the animators were quite high as a bird fart. By the way, if you didn't like James Bond's bland run in the 90s, you can thank Steve Biodrowski for championing such trite shite. Because he liked Tomorrow Never Dies. Seriously, who's letting this guy talk? He hated Return of the Jedi. And, of all movies, Enchanted.
Thus begins our enchanted adventure. God, that movie really was amazing.
He loved Spider-Man 3, Lake Placid, and that movie where Robin Williams dies. Of course he liked that one, the Terminal Fopdoodle. Oh, and look, here he is the day he heard Robin Williams died. Spoiler, no one showed up to the party he threw. Seriously, can we lock Steve up for being an absolute shill? Where's Bill Cosby to serve this guy a drink and a snog when we need one? Camilla Long from Sunday Times, UK says, it strains, it scuffles, it barely keeps the ball in the air like a desperate aging clown. The studio that made Toy Story, Monsters, Inc. and Wall-E seems painfully aware that it must come up with something ever more dazzling. Well, we've all seen what happens when Pixar doesn't feel obligated to come up with something more dazzling now, haven't we? That's why we need to keep applying pressure on Pixar so we can get back to getting good movies. Now it's time for the most honest review of Inside Out. Scott A. Mance from Access Hollywood says that Inside Out is a glorious, sweet, funny, charming, and incredibly moving masterpiece that easily fits the bill as Pixar's best outing since 2010's Toy Story 3.
Have you found the hidden tomato on the thumbnail yet? If so, comment below along with your favorite Pixar film. Have a movie request for us? Consider becoming a patron, and your request will be accepted before others. The link to our Patreon is in the description below. Until next time, keep roasting the critics.